The morning of June 12th, 2019 began like thousands of others in the quiet suburb of Crestview, Florida. Sunlight poured through plantation shutters, painting golden bars across the kitchen table where two identical little girls sat swinging their legs, eating strawberry oatmeal. Mia always ate the strawberries first, saving the warm oats for last like a reward. Lily did the opposite. Oats first, berries as dessert. Jenna Thompson watched them from the sink, memorizing the tiny differences most people never noticed. The way Lily's left eyebrow arched higher when she smiled, the single freckle just below Mia's right ear that looked like a period at the end of a perfect sentence. That same morning, across the street, a woman named Catherine Glass, who had introduced herself to the neighborhood as Carol Peterson, finished packing a small red duffel bag. Inside were two new white sweaters with pink lettering, Angels 19, two pink skirts still creased from the store, two pairs of tiny sneakers, and one photograph of the Thompson twins she had secretly printed from the preschool's public Facebook page. She had spent 17 months planning. 17 months of watching, waiting, learning every detail of Jenna's schedule, the daycare drop-off routine, the emergency contact protocol that relied far too heavily on trust and far too little on identity verification. At 8:47 a.m., the daycare phone rang. The caller ID displayed Jenna Thompson's mobile number. A woman's voice, frantic, sobbing, explained that she and her husband had been in a terrible highway accident. Please release the girls to my neighbor Carol Peterson. She's on the emergency list. I'm in the ambulance now. Hurry. The new staff member, only 3 weeks on the job, hesitated for perhaps 4 seconds before compassion overruled procedure. By 9:03 a.m., Mia and Lily were buckled into the back of a red pickup truck that did not belong to Carol Peterson. By 9:41 a.m., the truck was found abandoned in a Walmart parking lot 40 miles away, wiped clean. Jenna arrived at the daycare 17 minutes later. The moment the director's face crumpled, Jenna understood something primal that no parent should ever have to learn. There is a sound a mother's heart makes when it realizes its children have been stolen. It is not a scream. It is a silence so complete it becomes louder than any storm. For the next 36 months, Jenna lived inside that silence. She turned their home into a museum of absence. The twins' bedroom doors remained closed, their beds still shaped like the impressions their small bodies had left. She slept on the couch, so she wouldn't have to pass those doors at night. She installed cameras, motion lights, reinforced locks, not because she believed anyone would come for her next, but because the ritual of fortification was the only prayer she still knew how to say. Advanced vocabulary note: fortification here means both physical strengthening, reinforcing doors, and emotional armor building, a double meaning that appears frequently in stories of prolonged grief. Idiom alert: living inside that silence is a poetic way of saying someone is trapped in emotional numbness so deep that even crying feels impossible. Philosophically, Jenna's story forces us to confront a brutal question about trust. When does our human instinct to believe in the goodness of others become a dangerous vulnerability? In 2019, most American daycares still relied on verbal confirmation and caller ID, technologies easily defeated by free, spoofing apps available on the dark web for less than $10. Today, many states have passed Mia's Law-style legislation requiring photo ID verification and secondary callback protocols. One small change. One enormous ripple. And yet the deepest teaching is older than any law. Love makes us open. Grief teaches us boundaries. Wisdom is learning to live with both doors ajar, just enough to let light in but never wide enough to let monsters walk through unchallenged. So I leave you with this reflection. How many doors in your own life are you still holding open out of kindness, when perhaps they should be closed, or at least fitted with a stronger lock? October 2022. Hurricane Opal tore across the Florida Panhandle like a vengeful hand sweeping a cluttered table clean. In the tiny, unincorporated community of Blackwater Bend, an elderly property owner named Harold Vance walked through knee-deep water to check the storm damage on an old rental cabin he hadn't visited in almost 18 months. When he reached the detached outbuilding, once used as a laundry and storage shed, He saw that the eastern wall had collapsed inward like a rotten tooth falling out. Curiosity, or perhaps boredom, made him peer inside. Behind an ancient white washing machine, half covered in fallen drywall, was a rough-cut opening no bigger than a dog door. Harold shone his flashlight into the darkness and immediately wished he hadn't. Inside was a child's secret kingdom built inside a nightmare. Tiny table and chairs. A shelf of picture books. Crayon drawings taped to unfinished concrete walls. And on the low beige carpet, under UV light later, large, irregular stains that glowed an unearthly neon blue. Luminol, the chemical that reveals blood even after years of cleaning attempts, doesn't lie. The blood was old. Significant. Enough to suggest a life had ended here, or nearly ended. Detective Daniel Miller of the Bay County Major Crimes Unit received the call at 3:17 a.m. When the crime scene technicians confirmed the DNA profile matched the missing Thompson twins, he sat down on the tailgate of his truck and cried for the first time in 23 years on the job. Not tears of relief. Tears of dread. Because massive blood loss in a hidden room rarely ends with two happy reunions. Jenna received the news at 7:42 a.m. She had been trying and failing to assemble a new home security panel when Detective Miller's name appeared on her phone. She answered without greeting. Miller spoke carefully, the way surgeons speak before they cut. "We have a location. We have blood evidence. We have a preliminary familial DNA match. Jenna, we need you to come down." The drive from Crestview to Blackwater Bend took 5 hours and 23 minutes. Jenna and Mark barely spoke. Every mile felt like peeling back a scab. When they arrived, the crime scene tape snapped in the post-hurricane wind like prayer flags in a war zone. Jenna insisted on seeing the photographs. Miller hesitated, then handed her the stack. The glowing blue stains looked like abstract art painted by a monster. But it was the children's drawings that broke her. Dozens of them. Chronological. Early pictures showed two little girls holding hands with a smiling woman labeled New Mommy. Later drawings showed only one girl. The colors grew darker. The figures grew smaller. The walls grew closer. Advanced vocabulary. Luminol, a chemical reagent used in forensic science that produces a blue glow when it reacts with the iron in hemoglobin, the oxygen-carrying part of blood. Even if someone scrubs a crime scene with bleach, luminol can reveal what was once there. Idiom. Peeling back a scab, reopening an old emotional wound, usually painfully. Modern relevance to English learners. Many intermediate students fear abstract words like trauma, delusion, resilience. But stories like this teach us that the most powerful English is often the simplest. She cried. She ran. She held on. Complex vocabulary arrives, naturally, when the emotion is real. Philosophically, the hurricane becomes a metaphor for truth itself. Sometimes only catastrophic disruption can force hidden things into the light. We spend years avoiding pain, building walls, telling ourselves it's better not to know. But truth, like water, always finds the cracks. The question this chapter leaves you with is gentle but merciless. What secret room have you built inside yourself? And how long will you wait for a storm before you let someone see what's bleeding there? 17 miles northeast of the blood-stained outbuilding lived Elias Matthews, 49 years old, divorced, childless, and content with the company of approximately 280,000 honeybees. Elias had moved to the pine woods after his marriage collapsed, seeking the kind of quiet that only insects and wind can provide. Every morning he spoke softly to his hives. Every evening he flew his drone, a high-end DJI Mavic 3, to check for bear damage or poachers. On October 29, 2022, during a routine perimeter sweep, the drone's camera caught something that made Elias's stomach drop. A thin ribbon of smoke rose from a supposedly abandoned cabin on the neighboring property. Then a small child appeared, dark hair, thin arms, throwing a ball against the wall. Seconds later, a woman rushed out, grabbed the child, and yanked her back inside while scanning the sky with the hunted look of someone who already knew she was being watched. Elias flew the drone home. He sat in his kitchen for 47 minutes staring at the frozen frame of the little girl's face. Then he drove to the county sheriff's office. Detective Miller watched the footage 3 times. The quality was poor. The child's face was turned. Legally, it wasn't enough. But emotionally, it was enough to make a grown man whisper, "Jesus Christ." When Miller showed Jenna the grainy still, she didn't speak for almost 2 minutes. Then she pointed at the background, barely visible through the trees, and said one word, "Beehives." She pulled out the high-resolution scans of the twins' drawings she had begged to keep. In the later pictures, the ones with only one girl, there were always the same strange shapes in the distance, square boxes stacked together, and above them, tiny flying ducks. Bees. Buzzing around apiaries. Jenna had spent months researching Florida beekeeping regions. She knew exactly what she was looking at. Miller explained the warrant problem. Jenna didn't argue. She simply nodded, the nod of someone who has already decided the law will move too slowly. That night she and Mark drove to Elias's property unannounced. Elias met them at the gate wearing his white bee suit, veil lifted, expression guarded. Jenna didn't beg. She simply held out the drawings and said, "My daughter drew your hives. She saw them through a window. She's still drawing them. That means she's still alive." Elias looked at the crayon lines for a long time. Then he looked at Jenna's face, really looked, and saw a woman who had turned grief into a compass. He exhaled through his nose. "Follow me. But if she sees us, she'll run. And this time she might not stop." Advanced vocabulary. Apiary, a location where beehives are kept, from Latin, apis, bee. Idiom. Turn grief into a compass. Transform pain into direction and purpose. Modern English learning lesson. Notice how short sentences gain enormous power during emotional peaks. She's still drawing them. She's still alive. Advanced learners should practice using brevity as a weapon. One clean sentence can carry more weight than a paragraph of adjectives. Philosophical teaching. Sometimes the people who save us are the ones who least want to be involved. Elias didn't want to be a hero. He wanted to be left alone with his bees. Yet solitude had taught him something most social people never learn. Silence makes you hear what others miss. The moment he chose to listen to the sky instead of his own comfort, he changed 2 families forever. Reflection question to carry with you. Who in your life is quietly watching the sky for you? And what would happen if you asked them to speak? Paragraph 4/chapter 4. The longest 4 days in human history is almost equal to 4,250 words spoken. The ridge became their world. 4 days. 4 sunrises. 4 sunsets. 4 nights of biting insects, cramping muscles, whispered arguments, and the constant fear that every breath was too loud. They watched Catherine Carroll, the woman of many names, live the life she had invented. She hung laundry. She swept the porch. She sang songs to Mia in a voice Jenna once thought gentle. Every action felt like blasphemy. On day 3, just before dusk, the cabin door opened. Mia stepped out, taller, thinner, hair longer, eyes older. Jenna's binoculars shook so violently Mark had to steady her hands. When Mia turned her face toward the fading light, Jenna made a sound no dictionary has yet named. It lives somewhere between joy and murder. They photographed her. Clear. Unmistakable. But Catherine stayed in shadow. No warrant. No raid. Day 4 broke Jenna's restraint. She slipped down the ridge alone at twilight. Almost reached the shed. Triggered the motion light. Froze like prey under floodlight. Catherine scanned the darkness for a full 90 seconds. Jenna tasted her own heartbeat. Then the woman shrugged, blamed a raccoon, and went back inside. The near miss taught them what waiting could not. Catherine was a wounded animal. Cornered animals bite hardest just before they run. They devised the drone gambit. Elias programmed erratic flight patterns. Mark prepared the telephoto. Jenna would watch for signs of flight. They launched at 10:17 a.m. on day 5. The drone buzzed. Catherine rushed out. Elias guided it lower, louder, crazier. Then crash. Silence. Catherine approached the wreckage. Stepped fully into sunlight. Mark fired the shutter 12 times. Every frame contained her face. Jenna transmitted the photos while Catherine studied the drone. Then Catherine saw the camera lens pointing at the cabin. Her face changed from curiosity to animal panic. She sprinted inside.
2 hours, Miller said.
They didn't have 2 hours. Jenna ran. Mark and Elias followed. Catherine dragged a crying Mia toward the waiting car. Jenna screamed her real name. Catherine froze. Hearing Catherine Glass after so many years of Carol was like being struck by lightning. The struggle was ugly, primal, human. Mark wrestled keys from the ignition. Catherine fought like someone losing her god. Jenna reached Mia. Mia recoiled. You're dead. New mommy said you died. Jenna sang the lullaby she wrote when the girls were 3 weeks old. Little stars shining bright, guiding you through the night. Mia's eyes widened. Memory rose like a tide. Mommy. Sirens arrived. Catherine was taken. Mia was held. The forest held its breath, then exhaled. Advanced vocabulary. Blasphemy. Extreme disrespect toward something sacred. Here, Catherine's ordinary domestic acts feel sacrilegious because they occupy the space that rightfully belonged to Jenna. Idiom. Animal panic. Instinctual, unreasoning terror like prey sensing a predator. English learning note. Notice the power of sensory verbs in crisis scenes. Froze, sprinted, screamed, wrestled, recoiled. Advanced storytelling relies on action words more than adjectives. Philosophical core. Love is the only language trauma cannot fully erase. A lullaby, 15 seconds of melody, did what DNA, photographs, and justice could not. It reached the child inside the prisoner. Final reflection of this chapter. What song, what scent, what tiny ritual from your childhood still has the power to bring you home to yourself, even after decades of being lost? Catherine Glass confessed in pieces over 17 hours. Lily had fallen against a rusted blade in the hidden room. Catherine had tried rags, pressure, prayer. Nothing worked. She buried the little body in a shallow grave behind the rental house and fled with Mia deeper into the woods, believing she could outrun consequence forever. Forensic teams found Lily exactly where Catherine said. The autopsy confirmed exsanguination, death by blood loss. Preventable, senseless, final. Jenna and Mark buried their youngest daughter beneath an oak tree on a Tuesday morning in April 2023. Mia placed wildflowers on the grave and whispered, "I'm sorry I forgot you." Jenna knelt beside her and said, "You didn't forget, baby. You just had to hide the memory somewhere safe until it was time to come out again." Catherine was sentenced to life, without parole. The nation moved on. Jenna did not. Instead, she founded Twin Light Protocol, a nonprofit that trains daycares in anti-spoofing verification, secondary parental confirmation, and trauma-informed emergency procedures. She speaks at conferences. She trains police. She meets other grieving mothers. She never promises they will find their children. She only promises they will never have to grieve alone. Mia is 9 now. She still has nightmares. She still asks about Lily. But she also laughs. She draws pictures of 3 girls, 2 living, 1 watching from the sky. She calls Jenna mommy without hesitation. Elias Matthews still tends his bees. Every spring, he sends a jar of Tupelo honey to the Thompson house. No note, just the jar. Jenna keeps everyone on a special shelf. It is their silent way of saying, "Thank you for listening when the sky spoke." Advanced vocabulary. Exsanguination. Death caused by severe loss of blood. Idiom. Outrun consequence. Try to escape the natural results of one's actions, almost never successful. Modern English wisdom. The most beautiful sentences are often the shortest ones spoken after the longest silence. I'm sorry I forgot you. 7 words. Infinite weight. Philosophical closure. Life rarely gives us tidy endings. We get partial victories, complicated reunions, graves under oak trees, jars of honey from strangers. Healing is not erasing the scar, it is learning to live in the same body that carries it. And so I leave you not with answers, but with the only question that ever really matters after the storm has passed. Catherine Glass confessed in pieces over 17 hours. Lily had fallen against a rusted blade in the hidden room. Catherine had tried rags, pressure, prayer. Nothing worked. She buried the little body in a shallow grave behind the rental house and fled with Mia deeper into the woods, believing she could outrun consequence forever. Forensic teams found Lily exactly where Catherine said. The autopsy confirmed exsanguination, death by blood loss. Preventable, senseless, final. Jenna and Mark buried their youngest daughter beneath an oak tree on a Tuesday morning in April 2023. Mia placed wildflowers on the grave and whispered, "I'm sorry I forgot you." Jenna knelt beside her and said, "You didn't forget, baby. You just had to hide the memory somewhere safe until it was time to come out again." Catherine was sentenced to life, without parole. The nation moved on. Jenna did not. Instead, she founded Twin Light Protocol, a nonprofit that trains daycares in anti-spoofing verification, secondary parental confirmation, and trauma-informed emergency procedures. She speaks at conferences. She trains police. She meets other grieving mothers. She never promises they will find their children. She only promises they will never have to grieve alone. Mia is 9 now. She still has nightmares. She still asks about Lily. But she also laughs. She draws pictures of 3 girls, 2 living, 1 watching from the sky. She calls Jenna Mommy without hesitation. Elias Matthews still tends his bees. Every spring, he sends a jar of Tupelo honey to the Thompson house. No note, just the jar. Jenna keeps everyone on a special shelf. It is their silent way of saying, "Thank you for listening when the sky spoke." Advanced vocabulary, exsanguination, death caused by severe loss of blood. Idiom, outrun consequence, try to escape the natural results of one's actions, almost never successful. Modern English wisdom, the most beautiful sentences are often the shortest ones spoken after the longest silence. I'm sorry I forgot you. 7 words. Infinite weight. Philosophical closure. Life rarely gives us tidy endings. We get partial victories, complicated reunions, graves under oak trees, jars of honey from strangers. Healing is not erasing the scar, it is learning to live in the same body that carries it. And so I leave you not with answers, but with the only question that ever really matters after the storm has passed.